Mayfield, possibly out of Cleveland. You want to be a boss? That's how you be a boss. I did. I made a mistake. Hey, good morning. Good, and what a glorious morning it is. It's Tuesday, and the GOAT, Tommy B, led an improbable 2-touchdown in 3-minute drive last night. Not gonna lie. I had a night last night. I watched Yellowstone because I hadn't seen it Sunday night. I watched White Lotus. I watched a mob show while I worked out. By the time it was 16-3 in the fourth quarter, I went to bed. I went to sleep. I did. I went to sleep. I missed it. So I got up. I rewatched the ending. Oh, my God. All right, coaching matters. The NFL is the #1 show on turf. I mean, let's be honest. When you list the top 10 watched shows, what are they? They're NFL shows. Well, guess what? That means if you have an NFL team, you're lucky. There's 32 of them, a lot of cities in this country. We have one in Indianapolis, and I got to tell you, out of nowhere, we are the most dysfunctional team in the NFL. Let me give you an example of how to be arrogant, how not to be a leader of men, and a media that kisses ass every single day. We got it all right here in Indianapolis. Our coach is Jeff Saturday. Now remember this. Jeff Saturday, when Peyton Manning went out, played on a 2-14 team. 2-14. Every single guy with the Colts in our city owes everything to Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, for those of you nationally that aren't keeping score, I am, played 14 years in Indianapolis, went to 2 Super Bowls. That's how horse bleep the players he played with were. He goes 4 years to Denver, goes to 2 Super Bowls. That's how good the players he played with. But yet here in Indianapolis, guys like Jeff Saturday think that they invented the game. Jeff Saturday left the Colts and went to Green Bay. He talked about it. They talked about it on the show Sunday night. He got benched in Green Bay. Why? Because he was a clubhouse lawyer. They weren't listening to Jeff Saturday's stupidity over in Green Bay. Mike McCarthy benched him. That's one of the reasons Mike McCarthy kept scoring, because he knew Jeff Saturday was just a mouth. All right, Saturday gives up 33 points. 33 in the fourth quarter. Think about this. On national TV. To who? To Mike McCarthy, the guy that despises him, that benched him. How does Saturday react? Now remember, Saturday is a leader of men. That's what he said. I lead men. Let's hear the first one here, Dylan.
You as a player didn't go through a lot of this,
no.
Right? I mean, so yeah. I wonder how you personally process this kind of thing. I mean,
I was going to say this is new for me. This doesn't happen very often. So, but again.
All right, the guy asking the question is a guy named Stephen Holder. Somehow Stephen Holder has gone from being at the Indy Star to the Athletic to ESPN. Now, he will call everybody that disagrees with him racist. He tried it with me. People laughed at him and said, well, Dakich goes at everybody. Kravitz, who's white, Greg. He's the worst. Did you hear hey, Jeff, you're not used to this. That's the Indy print media. So those of you that are sitting there going, hey, what's going on here? That's my guy. That's Holder. That's our media. And if it wasn't going to be him, it was a white guy named Zach Kiefer that would go howdy doody. Hey, how are you? So Saturday, in his smug arrogance, knows that these guys aren't real media. Imagine coming off of a 33-point loss in the fourth quarter, in Philadelphia, in New York, in Dallas, in Boston, anywhere but Indianapolis, and you got, hey, Jeff, you're not used to this. Well, Jeff Saturday was on a 2-14 team. Sure, he's used to it. Without Peyton Manning, Jeff Saturday is very used to it. All these guys without Peyton Manning are incredibly used to it. Now, let me ask you a question. This is a leader of men. The arrogance and the smugness to act like you're some innocent bystander here. Wait, let's play the next clip.
Have you ever seen a game it's 21 nights.
Look at him happy.
It was just rolling downhill, couldn't be stopped.
Nah, yeah. I mean, I can assure you I haven't been involved in many losses in general, but definitely not like this. In
general, he was on a 2-14 team. He was on a 2-14 team. 2-5. Dan Orlovsky actually blanked us off here in Indy because he was good enough to get a couple wins. Saturday was on that team. Don't give me this crap. The smugness, the arrogance to act like you're some innocent bystander in all this. You're not a part of the law. You're the head coach. You're the guy that said, I'm the leader of men. You're the guy that said, one thing I know I can do is be a leader of men. Let me tell you how not to lead men. There's two ways. One, blank them off. I did that as an interim coach. I made idiots stop smoking weed. I made idiots start going to class. I lost them because I made them do the right thing. That's one way. The other way is to be smug, arrogant, and detached. And that's Saturday. So let me ask you a question. That ain't what we signed up for here in Indianapolis. I have friends that pay $7,500 for season tickets. That ain't what we signed up for. We didn't sign up for some fraudulent, glory days past hero to come in and after a 33-point loss on national TV get asked by America's softest media, hey, Jeff, you're not really used to this from your playing days, are you? No. He don't care. Why should fans care? Why should a fan show up for a Colts game? The Colts are the most dysfunctional organization in the NFL. And you say to yourself, Dan, I'm an Eagles fan. What do I care? No, wait a second. Imagine me saying the winningest franchise over the 2000s is now the most dysfunctional. No head coach, no offensive coordinator, no left tackle, no quarterback, no wide receiver one. That's you guys call it, wide receiver one. Hi, I'm wide receiver one. Shut up. Just got beat 33-0 in the fourth quarter on national TV. An owner that is trying his brains out, an owner that cares, an owner that wants, an owner that is making videos. The owner makes videos. We're going to fight. We're going to do it. And Jeff Saturday, the guy who literally, and I mean literally got carried by Peyton Manning, is out here giggling with clowns in the media after an ass kicking. Now, I got to ask you a question. I got to ask you. Would you sign up for that? Here's why I bring it up. On Monday, my good friend, the great F. Cameron Cefali, his name is Cam, we grew up together. We talk on the way, always on Mondays, about the Colts game. He's been a season ticket holder forever. He says, you're not going to believe this, but on Monday, after a 33-point loss, I got a call from the Colts saying, hey, it's time to make your payment for next year. He's like, man, look, you should at least call on Tuesday. Don't call on Monday. He'll do it. Everybody will do it. But honest to God, this is where we're at in Indianapolis. This is where we are. A head coach that arrogantly, after a game where they got embarrassed, shows up, doesn't care, and acts like he's detached from it. Hell, I was an interim coach. Every loss I felt like was on me. Leader of men, this guy? Leader of men, this guy. This guy couldn't lead wild turkeys to take a dump. This guy, Saturday. This guy is about himself. This guy is arrogant. This guy has done nothing, zero, nada, to improve the Colts. They still fumble. There's still no toughness. There's not a daggone thing in there. And don't tell me he's just there as a placeholder. The heck he is. He is there to be the head coach. That's what he wants. He circumvented a really good guy in Frank Reich. Bad coach, good guy in Frank Reich. He backstabbed all with that. Hi, I'm a Christian stuff. I always tell you this. I tell you this, I tell you this, and I tell you this. If you are ever in a business meeting with a guy like Saturday that would start the business meeting with a prayer, get up and leave the business meeting immediately and put your hand on your wallet. This isn't a Dan Dakich original. This is a Tom Dakich original. My brother is in meetings with billionaires, millionaires, raising $200, $300, $400 million for projects for Northwest Indiana. And guess what? That's his thing. If a guy starts a meeting, a hedge fund guy, maybe an equity, whatever, with a prayer, I get up, shake hands, and I leave because I know I'm getting ready to get stuck in the back. Saturday's one of those guys. How you doing? Hi, buddy. Yeah? All right, Jeffy. Fraud. Complete fraud. I got no respect. Zero respect. My thing is this. When I lose respect, I'm done. I can't stop. Holder, no respect. Media guys in Indy, no respect. You heard why right there. Right there. Hi. Hey, Jeff. You didn't have many of these as a player, did you? Yeah, you did. You were 2-14. Hey, Jeff, here's what I would ask. Your team was 2-14 when you played without Manning. 2-14, you're kind of used to this, huh? Your last year in Indy? You having flashbacks? And watch his demeanor change because he's got everybody believing that, you know what? He was a great player. Crap. Nonsense. Garbage. He was a function of Peyton Manning, just like every guy not named Marvin Harrison or Edgerrin James was a function of Peyton Manning. Reggie Wayne, my backside. Although Reggie shouldn't get caught in the crosshairs because Reggie was a hell of a player. Never mind, add Reggie to that. Saturday, my back. Hey, Jeff Saturday is simply using it for this. Jeff Saturday wants everybody to know that he's the greatest player, and you know what? He's trying to get in the Hall of Fame. That's it. Hey, transfer portal's open. I tell you what, I love what Dion did. If I were Dion, I'd tell people, get out. Well, you can't kick me out. It's a business, Slappy. Get the hell out. Now, out. People think I'm rough on Saturday, right? Well, you're really busting. That's Indianapolis. When Kenny Rhoda, which he still is, Kenny Rhoda in Cleveland has been busting chops since I was a child. And I'm still a child. So don't come at me, you Indy fans. Well, you're really mean to Jeff Saturday. Well, somebody got to be. Look, the print media in Indianapolis is inconsequential other than to make fun of. And they get so mad. They listen to my show every day. I guarantee you they're listening now. There'll be a tweet. Holder will say I'm racist. He doesn't understand that I'm cutting on Saturday, white guy, and him. Both ridiculous. But that's what we do. When you're such a clown, then you go to that. Speaking of clowns, Jeff Saturday, clown. Kenny Rhoda, I just went off on Saturday. I just lost my mind. What are you doing? What's going on with Baker Mayfield? Congratulations. You guys got rid of this train wreck. Good for you.
Yeah, what a train wreck he is, right, Dan? When you look at what he did as the number one overall pick in his rookie year, and from then he had one good year when he won a playoff game, but his attitude, his ego, his lack of height, I'll say it. A lot of people don't like to bring that up, but it's a factor in the league, has basically made him unemployed right now, and he's hoping that one of these injured teams will come to him and ask him to be their savior, either the 49ers, the Ravens, maybe the Rams, even though they're out of the playoffs. So he's looking for a job right now, and it'll be interesting to see if anybody gives him one.
What happened here? Because there was a stretch where it was going pretty well for the kid.
A number of things happened. He got injured. That was the biggest thing last year, and he tried to play through it. And that was a bad decision by both the Browns and Baker Mayfield. He was in the final year of his contract, so he wanted to show he was a tough guy and he could play through it. It was his opposite shoulder, not his throwing shoulder, and he tried to battle through it, and he couldn't. And it affected his play. It affected the Browns as a team, and it affected the way I think the league looked at him because coming in out of Oklahoma as the number one overall pick in 2018, he was considered an accurate passer. That's his biggest asset, a winner and an accurate passer. Well, when the accuracy went down, the interceptions went up, and he couldn't rectify that, and teams maybe got a book on him, keep him in the pocket, get your hands up. He's a short quarterback. Then he becomes ineffective, and therefore you put that on tape. The eye in the sky don't lie, Dan, and teams figured that out. And Carolina, talk about a woeful organization right now, right? They're scrambling for anybody and everybody to play quarterback. They gave him a shot, gave up a fifth-round draft pick now is what it'll be to the Browns in 2024 to see if they could resurrect his career. That didn't work. He supposedly asked to be released. They were going to release him anyways because he was the third-string guy. So right now it's unfortunately a train wreck for Baker Mayfield.
Do you think he'll ever play in the league again? It's a tough question to answer, but do you think he'll ever play?
I do, Dan. Geno Smith starting for Seattle. Did we think Geno Smith was ever going to play in the league, let alone be a starter and leading a team to a better win-loss record than what they might have had they kept Russell Wilson? And we're seeing how that's working out in Denver right now. So never say, Dan, Never say never. Wayne Gretzky got traded. Joe Montana got traded. LeBron James left Cleveland not once but twice, right? Never say never in sports. If there's one thing I've learned, okay, never say never. And the other thing I learned many years ago was make sure you are not live doing a radio broadcast of a Bowling Green basketball game without a delay and Dan Dakich standing next to you yelling at the officials.
Oh, that was good. I remember you guys looking at me in a panic as I'm dropping F-bombs. You motherfuckering blank. Hey, Roadman, I got to ask you, it's all the rage. Deshaun Watson, he played, a lot of controversy. It was in Texas. If the Texans were good, there probably would have been more. They get the win, couple defensive touchdowns, Peoples-Jones with a return. What's the sentiment in Cleveland of Deshaun Watson back in business?
Well, the debut was a dud, no question about it. He was throwing one-hoppers to, Owen Miller at first base for the Guardians a number of times. Did not look comfortable. Give the Texans credit. They kept him in the pocket, didn't allow him to get out too much and scramble where he can use his feet, which is one of his biggest assets. He did not look good. He looked rusty. They are saying that he made the right throws. He just didn't make good throws. Well, the interception in the end zone was horrible. I don't know if he had flashbacks to when he was playing with the Texans and thought, he'd hit the open Texan for the touchdown. Instead, it was an interception. It was a terrible throw. Some of the other throws were to wide open guys. He just didn't get him the football. So they hope it's rust. They're going to give him a mulligan, get that game out of the way. Thank goodness it was against the worst team in the NFL, the Houston Texans. Now, different story this week. On the road at Cincinnati, coming off a big win over Kansas City. They're tied for first place in the AFC North with Baltimore, who, without Lamar Jackson, a chance for Cincinnati to maybe leapfrog them and be all by themselves in first place. And Joe Burrow's never beaten the Browns for whatever reason. Joe Burrow, Jackpot Joey, right? 0-4 against the Browns as a starter so far in his career. So we'll see which of the two quarterbacks rises to the occasion this Sunday in the jungle.
And the importance of this is not lost because people in Cleveland want to whoop up on people in Cincinnati, and people in Cincinnati want to whoop up. And this is a game maybe we don't know how games are going to play out, Roadman, but this is a game that the quarterback has to go win in certain ways, probably, right?
Oh, without question. And you all know about Jacoby Brissett. You had him there in Indy. Great guy, right? Good leader, but he's a backup for a reason. And his 4-7 record showed you that. He did lead them back to a victory in his final start, ironically beating the GOAT, Tom Brady, who just racked up another come-from-behind win last night, amazingly. But Jacoby Brissett, that was really the only game where he showed that he could lead the team back. And I don't know if he really showed that 100% because David Njoku reaches way up to make a ridiculous catch to bail him out on a 4th down pass, or they lose that game. So Brissett is what he is. He's a backup quarterback. Deshaun Watson was given $230 million guaranteed to beat Joe Burrow in the 4th quarter, down 3 points, needing a touchdown to win, and to be that franchise quarterback. You don't sign a guy for $230 million just to win your division, which, by the way, Dan, the Browns have never won the AFC North since it became the North. You got to go back to the Central in the late 80s. So he's not here just to win the North, even though that would be nice for Browns fans. He's here to win a Super Bowl. 230 million reasons why, they brought him here and paid him that money. His athletic ability, his accuracy, his high quarterback rating, and to get them to the playoffs and not just win a playoff game like Baker Mayfield did one time, but to win the whole damn thing.
Hey, I want to go back to that. Stefanski brought in, it seems like to me, now you can tell me I'm crazy, but it seems like to me, the shelf life of a coach in Cleveland ain't much, brother. How are we with Stefanski?
The seat is a little bit more than lukewarm right now, but here's the way I think they're going to view it, or Stefanski and his agent will view it, right? You handcuffed me by going out and getting this major distraction in the offseason, and we thought maybe he'd be suspended for 6 games. It was 11. So I had to go with a backup quarterback for 11 games. Don't judge me on those 11 games. Judge me on these final 6. and see what I can do with one of the best ranked quarterbacks in the history of quarterback ratings in National Football League history. So I think Coach of the Year is first year, right? So that's a good year. Okay. And then you look back at the last 2 years and you scratch your head saying, all right, this guy gets so caught up in play calling, he's forgetting about his other duties as the head coach. And he's been ineffective, as have, the Browns as a team, 5-7 this year. But I think because of his ability to call plays, and if you look at how good they are on that opening drive throughout the season, those scripted plays, they're outstanding, one of the best in the league. I think that, along with the get-out-of-jail-free card, if you will, with Deshaun Watson, let's see what he does these final 6 games with Watson. What is the team's record? And then they'll judge that moving forward.
I got the reference, get out of jail free. I got that. I saw it. I heard it. I liked it. I loved it. It's good. How good's Nick Chubb?
Best running back in the National Football League, best player on this team. No offense to Myles Garrett, who says he's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year, but has yet to show that he can do it consistently for 16 games. I'll take Nick Chubb. His added. Do you ever hear anything bad about Nick Chubb? Have you ever heard a negative thing about Nick Chubb? No, you'd love him as a former coach because he's the first at work, the last to leave, the hardest worker, leads by example, doesn't cause any issues off the field or in the locker room. He's the best all-around player on this team, and they don't feature him enough. If there's one knock for me on Kevin Stefanski, we have a guy in Dayton. Dick in Dayton calls all the time, right? And he's an older gentleman, and he loves his sports teams, and he'll call me up. He goes, Roadman, tell Stefanski to run the ball. And as crazy as it sounds coming from him, now we have a saying on the show, run the ball, Stefanski. Give the ball to Nick Chubb. When you do 20 or more times, your winning percentage is way up here. When you don't, it's way down here. So run the ball, Stefanski, even with Deshaun Watson at quarterback.
All right, moving forward, like our franchise here, I just went on a rant about the Colts. Our franchise here is a mess, right? It's a mess. Yeah. We don't have a coach. We don't have an offensive coordinator. Our quarterback's 110 years old. Left tackle can't play. Offensive line stinks. You've watched this a long time. And the line from being really good for take out like the Steelers and all, to being crap, it happens fast. I feel like it happens fast, Roadman. Like, all of a sudden, the bottom can drop out, so enjoy your team when it's good, no?
Absolutely, and I think we get caught up so much. If you don't win a championship, you don't appreciate the good teams. Not the great teams, the good teams, until you're crap and you stink. And then you go, man, I wish we would have had that again, right? Go back a few years. That wasn't so bad. But I come from the motto, Dan, Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last, right? If you don't win the Super Bowl, you don't win the NBA championship, the hoist the Stanley Cup, the World Series, the national championship in college football, whatever, you're last. That's just the way I'm wired, whether it's right or wrong. It affects me the way, I viewed when my son played high school basketball, when I watched college or the pros. And I look for championships. How many rings you got? You want to judge people? I judge them on how many rings they got. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Jerry Rice, second best player. Oh, Jim Brown's a great. No, Jim Brown won 1 championship. Great individual player. Greatest running back, arguably, of all time, but not the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. I'll take Tom Brady and Jerry Rice based on winning championships along with the individual statistics. So, enjoy it. While it's good, but strive to be the best. But when it's bad, boy, it really hurts. And right now, the Colts, hey, I don't know where you are with Jim Irsay, but Jeff Saturday, I don't blame Jeff Saturday. I blame the guy who hired Jeff Saturday. That's the way I look at it. So, Saturday, is he going to turn down that paycheck? Probably not. It might make him a better broadcaster after he gets fired after this year. But I don't blame him. I blame the guy who hired him.
I blame everybody. Like, Saturday came in here, bragged about being a leader of men, and then his post-game, he's so detached, it's like he wasn't even there. I blame the general manager. I blame the media for the general manager. I've been saying the general manager is the most overrated dude in the world. I blame the owner. I blame the whole here's the deal, and this is not Indianapolis, this is everywhere. The owner of the Colts, Roadman, used to have a sign. Grigson had it up, Polian had it up. Nothing interferes with winning. And then our guy, Jimmy Irsay, started being a social justice warrior, started caring about relationships. Nothing wrong with that, but you got to win. You can do everything as long as you win. And nothing gets in the way of winning, Roadman. That's what I say. Owner, GM, assistant GMs, you name it, they all got in the way of winning. Get them the hell out of here. That's how I look at it.
You know what? Just win, baby. Al Davis had it right way back when, and that was his motto, and he stuck to that. Relationships are important. You look at one of the most stable franchises in the NFL, and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Rooney family. But what have they won in a long time? But they're still viewed as one of the top programs because Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing record since he's been there in 15 years, although that'll happen this year more than likely. But again, go back, Tomlin. To me, Mike Tomlin's done less with more talent than a lot of coaches have in the last 15 years when you consider, I know he went up against New England and Tom Brady every time, and just like the Cavaliers when Michael Jordan was there, right? And the GOAT beat you, but you got to find a way to win when you had the killer bees and everything like that. And they won one title, played for two, should have beat Green Bay in that Super Bowl, lost that one. So would you take Mike Tomlin as the coach of the Indianapolis Colts?
100%. We've had no accountability here. We Saturday, listen to this, Roadman. After the game on Sunday, they got outscored 33-0 on national TV. Saturday, went into the press conference and told our fawning media he was proud of how hard his team fought. He told the defense, man, you blocked a kick. They got beat. What if they didn't fight? Would it have been 55-0? You know what I'm saying? I want somebody that gets in there and says, even if you just look pissed, I'm good on that, Roadman.
I'm the same with you. And you know what else drives me crazy? In the NBA, I see that as well. After a basketball, damn, when I played somebody, I wanted to beat your ass, right? I wanted to outscore you, out-hustle you, outplay you, and on the scoreboard, just kill you. And I know they've grown up together in the AAU circuit, times are changing, man. I ain't hugging anybody after a game. Unless it's game 7 of a series, so I'm trying to beat you. That's and again, I'm wired that way. We're older. It's the younger generation, what is it? The X generation. I don't know. What is it now? X, Y, Z. What generation are we on now? So I've lost track of that, but it's all about winning. And when you hear a coach say his team played hard, when they got blown out, that's him trying to cover for how bad their performance really was.
That's exactly right. 1,000% right. You're expected to play hard. There's nothing about, I was proud of our guy. You got beat 33-0.
It's something that I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's something I think in today's world of social media and everybody having a platform with podcasts and Twitter and snap faces, Belichick calls it, whatever, right? You hear these terms, well, he played hard. We played hard. It was a good effort. What's the other one that drives me crazy? We're going to look at the tape. Well, you don't have to look at the tape. You got beat, 33-0 in the second half, just like the Buckeyes got beat 28-3 in the second half to Michigan recently. I didn't need to look at the tape again. I saw it the first time it happened. You stunk the first time it happened. It's going to stink the second time and the third time and the 10th time you watch it. You have to tell me to look at the tape. And then we hear, this guy, we have a great team. No, great teams win championships. Good teams make the playoffs. Great teams win championships. He's a great player. No, he's not a great player. Okay, yeah, he caught a touchdown pass as a wide receiver. He threw a touchdown pass as a quarterback. That's his job. He's supposed to do that. The great ones do it when the game's on the line. You're down 16-3 with 5 minutes to go, and you engineer 2 scoring drives and win the game with 3 seconds left like Brady did last night. That's great. Let's not confuse great with good and playing hard as a great sign of a football team or any team.
I have a friend that says, I'll say, hey, man, that was a great putt. He goes, well, it didn't go in. I'm like, shut up. But I agree with you. All right, last thing, the Cavs. What's going on with the Cavs? We still like Darius Garland?
Love Darius Garland. Love the pickup of Donovan Mitchell. Didn't love it at first. I was like, man, that's a lot to give up. And, I know he dropped 50 twice in a playoff game, but is he a superstar or just a good all-star, right? Again, all-star, superstar. He's starting to emerge, I think, as a superstar. And I thought at first I didn't like it a whole lot. It grew on me. Mike Gansey, now the GM, Kobe Altman, the president of basketball operations. I give him credit for going. And they took a swing, man, right? They've got a young team. This nucleus is going to be together for a while. And I know it's a small backcourt, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, but that's why you have Jared Allen, and that's why you have Evan Mobley, who's going to emerge. And I'm not going to – it's unfair to put labels on guys, okay? But if he comes 60 to 70% of being what Tim Duncan was, similar style game, defense, leader, affects the game in a positive way, both ends of the floor. Mobley can be an all-star. This is a nice young nucleus to build around. Getting Ricky Rubio back in February. People are, what? Ricky Rubio? Ricky Rubio was one of the key members of that team before he got hurt at the end of December last year, and that's when it started to go south for them, and instead of making the playoffs, they had the play-in game, right? So for me, I'm excited about the Cavs, and guess who they play tonight? LeBron James and the Lakers come to town. So enjoy that one. I think it's on TNT tonight. So after beating them in LA, the Lakers are playing well. I think winners 8 of their last 10. AD dropped 50 the other night. This is going to be a hell of a matchup tonight. I'm more excited about the Cavaliers than I am the Browns. And that's not saying much when they're 5-7, but Deshaun Watson, a lot of people are excited about that. I'm more excited about the Cavaliers and the Buckeyes getting another swing at the national championship.
Man, the Buckeyes, I said this, Roadman, worst case scenario for Georgia happened.
Absolutely. You get the Buckeyes, and they have one of those magical offensive games right now. If I were in Vegas and you said, okay, $100, who you picking? I'm picking Georgia. But I think the Buckeyes, if C.J. Stroud, now that the Heisman Trophy vote is in, and we'll see who wins that on Saturday night, Ryan Day doesn't have to try and win C.J. Stroud the Heisman. I think some coaches get caught up in that loyal to a fault trying to get their guy the Heisman, right? Now that that's over with, and they got their asses whooped by Michigan again for the second straight time, and C.J. Stroud's 0-2, what better way to rectify that, right, than upset last year's national champ and then go exercise your demons over the last 2 years? Who'd have thunk that? Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines in the national championship game. That would be the ultimate national championship game in the Midwest. Buckeyes and Wolverines for all the marbles.
Woo! Woo! I'd drive out for that one. Thank you, Roadman. You're the best. That was fun.
Anytime, Dan. You know that. Anytime for you, my friend. Be well.
That's the Roadman, Kenny the Roadman Rhoda. You can hear him all over Cleveland, I'm telling you. People think I'm hard on Saturday. Bah. All right, let's go. When we come back, I got more headlines. Kyrie Irving, what are you doing? Hey, is The Rock on roids? You think? Come on. Heisman Trophy has been out there. The Biden White House just dismisses Elon Musk. I got a lot to say to you people. Retweet us. Get us out there. We got to get the numbers going. Let's go.
2 teams went out. One was actually a team from the unit that I now play on TV that was attached to us. They went out. They went on the front side, or went around to go to the front side of this other house, and my team was basically going towards the back side of the house. So very shortly, what happened was it was the wrong house, and when we hit that one house, the actual house it was, which was next door, which is not exactly next door because Sutter City is kind of weird of how it's built. But, they heard us. They were getting ready, prepping, their gear, and so they were ready to go. So when that team came around, a bunch of dudes opened up out of the front, what I assume would be the living room, with AKs and shot, I think they shot 3. If I'm not mistaken, they shot 3 of the members of that team. 2 of them were pretty much out of the fight at that point. But they were, I mean, it was heavy. I wasn't on that side of the house, but just hearing it, I was like, oh man, that's extreme. So I ran into the back door, which came into the kitchen, cleared through there, went in the hallway, and those same guys, as we approached that room, shot through the walls of that hallway, shot the guy literally right next to me. So then we backed off, and then we were and I'd have to draw it out, but we were in a tactical position that was just there wasn't a lot we could do. So we were trying to kind of figure out how to solve it. And the next thing I know, I remember just the whole room, or actually it wasn't really a room, it was the hallway, so it was more like a tube straight at me, and just everything exploded. And I actually remember hitting the ground and looking up down the hallway, and I was just confused.
Hey, welcome back. Let's talk Kyrie Irving. Let's talk headlines from last night. Let's go. You ready? Here's the deal. Kyrie Irving has been dropped by Nike for the anti-Semitic rants and different things. Look, here's the deal. A Nike athlete is what Nike calls itself. A Nike athlete refers to itself as smug. A Nike athlete a Nike athlete is a smug, arrogant way to go about the business. You're a Nike athlete. What that means is you get your own shoe line. Eventually, if you're really a Nike athlete, they may name a building to you out in Portland. But here's the deal. You got to represent it. Now, I would ask and say there's a little bit of hypocrisy here, right? I mean, Nike shoes, where are they made? China, by who? Children making under a living wage, but Nike doesn't care. Nike in the United States wants to be smug, wants to be arrogant. I was a Nike coach. I went on Nike trips. They always got all of the coaches into a room to start it and gave you a propaganda lesson on the greatness of Nike and the unfairness of the media relative to Nike. I don't know what to tell you, but Kyrie Irving now stands to lose a ton of money as Nike has severed the relationship. Remember, this is a man that lost $15 million. He did, by sitting out games for COVID. I don't know, maybe he's got more money than sense, but I do know this. The great Isaiah Thomas, the good Isaiah Thomas, the one that was really good, the Pistons Isaiah Thomas, not the lefty that shot a lot, he told Coach Knight and I, when he was the head of the Players Association, that 52 cents on every dollar that an NBA player made, now this is in the 90s, went away. Meaning, if I make $1 million, okay, 520,000 of it went away before I saw any of it, between taxes and fees and agents and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of money. Maybe Kyrie Irving has a ton of cash. I don't know. But what I do know is this. Losing a Nike deal is massive. Losing $15 million last year over COVID is massive. Sometimes your mouth outweighs your pocketbook. However, I will say, if Kyrie Irving truly believes in what he stands for, believes in what he's doing, then God bless him. Good for Kyrie Irving. I don't know what to tell you. If that's what he believes, I'm all for it. I lost $3.5 million in 2002 by standing up for my principles, by telling a place, hey, look, ain't happening. Ain't doing it, West Virginia. You're not owning me. Guess what? Never got that money back, but I lived a very happy life and never, ever, ever lost a minute's sleep over doing what's right. If that's how Kyrie feels, then God bless him. It's literally that simple. Heisman Trophy finalists announced. A lot of crap right now. Hendon Hooker should have been on there. How are we voting? What are we doing? Stetson Bennett seems to be the guy in the mixture. Now, look, I got to tell you, How important are quarterbacks? Well, let's look. Caleb Williams, quarterback. Max Duggan, quarterback. C.J. Stroud, quarterback. Stetson Bennett, quarterback. Why are we even messing around? Why are we even playing around calling it the Heisman Trophy? It's simply a quarterback award. That's what it is. I'm sorry. That's what the Heisman Trophy is. The Heisman Trophy is an award going to quarterbacks. That's it. That's where it's going. That's where it's headed. That's what's happening. Period. I don't know what to tell you. So why do we even have a quarterback award? Why is there even a Davey O'Brien award? Why don't we just say simply this? We're going to give the Heisman to the best quarterback and get rid of any other quarterback award. The Maxwell Trophy, same thing. Look, Stetson Bennett, I don't know if he should be on there. I feel like Hendon Hooker should be on there. But I got to tell you this about Stetson Bennett. When you pay attention to everything involved with the University of Georgia, Stetson Bennett is at the forefront of it. He's a little bit like Jimmy G in the NFL. They always want to say, well, Jimmy G doesn't really matter. He's not good enough. All his team does is win. Stetson Bennett, not good. All his team does is win. That's it. I'm sorry, but that's all she wrote, baby. They just win. So, if you're going to be a quarterback on a team like Georgia that lost all these first-round picks, and yet your team goes undefeated, and you've had a really good statistical year, stands the reason maybe you should be on there. Should Hendon Hooker? Yeah. Lotus, I'm not getting into statistics. I'm not. I'll tell you why I'm not getting into statistics. Because these offenses in college on every one of these teams, except maybe TCU going into the year, are designed to put up big numbers. Hey, look, one guy's numbers against another guy's numbers, that's great. Wonderful. Hell, look up a guy named Omar Jacobs at Bowling Green. I think he still has the all-time record. I do. I think he still has the all-time record touchdowns to interceptions in NCAA football. Now, Omar Jacobs should have been on the list for the Heisman if we just went by stats. If you went by guts, there isn't a guy on here better than Duggan or better than Caleb Williams. Look, Duggan and Caleb Williams, Williams probably will win the Heisman. He was out there limping, wouldn't let his coach take him out. I'm all in on that. Max Duggan captured the nation on how tough he was, how much he cared, and he also captured the nation by his offensive coordinator being too stupid to run a sneak. I mean, what are we doing? So the truth of the matter is, when you look at the Heisman finalists, what are you going to do? Who are you complaining about? Hendon Hooker, I don't disagree with that. Absolutely great. Got his team to number one in the country. Huge numbers. He went out, didn't play the last game. Maybe they held that against him. But I ain't too mad about it. I ain't that mad about it. You know who it's good to be today? I'll tell you who it's good to be today. It's good to be Justin Verlander. Yeah, no, it's really good to be Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander is signing with the Mets. Justin Verlander is signing a 2-year, $86 million deal. You know what else Justin Verlander is doing? He's going to celebrate his 40-year birthday. That's right. His 40-year birthday. That's what he's going to sign. He's going to have his 40-year birthday coming up before the season starts. So this guy at 40 years old, probably going to win the Cy Young. Guess what? Or maybe he did. I can't even remember. My head hurts. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But listen, he's going to make $43 million a year for 2 years playing with the Mets. And he's married to what's-her-face. Are you kidding me? Justin Verlander got it figured out. Look, I don't know if People magazine would make Justin Verlander the most handsome man in America or whatever they have that thing that I should win. But I got to tell you, luckiest, easiest life, unbelievable life man in America, give me Justin Verlander. Today, tomorrow, the next day. I'm just telling you, that dude, holy hell. I was listening to the guys on the Mets talking about it. You know what they said? The Yankees offered him more. All That's fine. If the Yankees offered him more, then God bless him. Man, Justin Verlander, holy cow, you got it going on. I ain't jealous of many. I ain't jealous of him, but I'm a little bit jealous. I'm a little bit interested. I'm a little bit wondering. Come on. Justin Verlander, salute. So, over the weekend, there was an incredible release of files by Elon Musk on Twitter. And in those files, it showed very clearly that the FBI and the Biden administration, well, they influenced Twitter. They met with Twitter. They got Twitter to basically censor. They got them to censor what was going on here in the United States on Twitter to influence the election. And this has made absolutely no impact. The Biden administration says very clearly, we don't care. You know what? It is, well, it's just, I don't know, well, maybe just a distraction. Maybe it's just not necessary. Our Democrats are telling you, well, what do you Republicans want to do? Are you looking to see Hunter Biden's business? No. Nobody's looking to see Hunter Biden's business. But the truth of the matter is, there is corruption and there is porn. Not that porn's bad, but what idiot downloads porn these days? All you got to do is go on, look at it, and go away. Nobody needs to download it. They don't. What are you downloading porn for, Hunter Biden? But that's not the point. The point is what Donald Trump told us is this. What Donald Trump said was, look, here's the deal. We in America are being censored by Twitter. Twitter is being influenced by the FBI, who is working with the Biden crime family, and it is a crime family, to censor Americans. That doesn't seem right. Now, you got to understand, every time a person named Trump takes a dump, it's national news. Every time a person named Trump does anything, it's national news. And yes, I am going whataboutism. How can journalists call themselves journalists and look the American people in the eye if NBC, CBS, everybody except for Fox, has disregarded what is going on here? It's insane to me. It's crazy to me. It's not even human to me. Every person that goes, I went to journalism school. I majored in telecommunications. They tell you be curious, ask questions, find out. Not one person in the mainstream media is asking questions. New York Times, Washington Post, Indianapolis Star, anything Gannett, not one single article. And the Biden administration says, hey, we're just going to disregard it. It's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable. It's stunning to me. It's fascinating to me. It's ridiculous to me. But I got to tell you, it's the world we live in. We are all fools. We are our absolute fools. That's what we are. They look at us like we're idiots. They look at us like, hey, it doesn't matter what we tell the American people. Your newspaper, there's a thing today on a thread from the columnist of the Indy Star about how hard the Indy Star works for you. Yeah, there's not one thing, not one. Look on Elon Musk, not one, but they work really hard for us. You heard Jim Banks, the congressman, come on our air and say, hey, look, the Indy Star already has the story written and the headline written, no matter what the outcome is, and it ain't for Republicans. They don't care about you. They don't work hard for you. They work hard for their narrative. That's what newspapers are doing these days. That's what national media is doing these days. The narrative, Trump bad. The narrative, Musk bad. Hate speech up, even though every single metric shows you hate speech is actually down on Twitter. But they don't care. There's nothing about this that is honest. There's nothing about this that serves the American people. The media today serves one purpose, and that is to serve the Democratic, the liberal agenda, and anything other than that is disinformation. You know what is amazing? It is amazing how many of these, how many quote, right-wing conspiracies end up being accurate. I get called it all the time by the little punks at the Indy Star. He works for a right-wing conspiracy. Well, they end up being accurate. Leslie Stahl literally on 60 Minutes stopped Donald Trump when he told her about what was going on with Twitter. She stopped him. Turned out to be accurate. Turned out to be 100% accurate. Holy cow. But not a word. They work for us, ladies and gentlemen. They work hard for us, they tell us. I go to Greg Doyle's Twitter. They're working hard for us. They wrote a 2,000 piece, 2,000 words, 2,000 on me being a mean guy. 2,000. Not one word on Elon Musk. Not one word. Not a word. I'm going to write another article on Dakich. They say, right, you should. In this city, you should. You 100% you should. Honest to God. It's the only thing people are reading, but not one word on Elon Musk. Not a word. Not a word. In fact, if you Google Elon Musk, all you see, and go to Google, by the way, because we know Google is in on this, all you see is negative articles on Elon Musk. Your newspaper can't wait to write, or your mainstream media can't wait to write something that fits the narrative. But be honest, hell no. All right, I'm tired of all of this. I'm tired of all these quitters. I'm tired of these guys quitting in college football, college basketball, and being glorified as anything but quitters. I don't know whether Jackson Smith Jigba is a quitter or not. I have no idea. I don't. And I'm not talking about him necessarily. He got injured, he's not playing. But it's a bigger issue. All you got to do is look at this transfer portal. I gave you the numbers last week. So this transfer portal is the deal. Here's the deal with the transfer portal. The transfer portal is going to have thousands of kids in it, 60% of whom won't find another place and will be out of football. And then what are they going to do? But I digress. What I'm really tired of is guys giving me these long-worded goodbyes. These long-worded goodbyes are full of crap. You're not a Buckeye for life if you quit. You're not a Hoosier for life if you quit. You're not. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel about it as a longtime coach. Doesn't mean you have to feel about it. Certainly means, that I can be criticized for it. But I'm so tired. I'm so tired of listening and reading players' goodbyes. Oh my God, I'll always be a Buckeye. No, you won't. No, you quit. There's a linebacker at Ohio State who is getting ready, should be getting ready, to play in the national championship playoffs. He's in the transfer portal with a long always be a Buckeye. No, you're not. No. Nuh-uh. This is why I like a lot Matt Painter. Matt Painter is the coach at Purdue. Matt Painter, when he had two kids quit the other day, or 2 years ago, came on my show and said, hey, look, these guys aren't Boilermakers. They quit. And everybody in the media can go against me. Everybody can tell me I'm a bad guy. Everybody can tell me I'm a hater. Here's some kid named Travis Dye. Listen to this. All right? My love for Eugene, the University of Oregon, all my teammates and Duck community has made this decision the hardest of my life. I will always bleed green and yellow and would not be the man or the player I am today. To the fans, thank you for bringing that energy every Saturday. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm going back home for my final year. You quit. Yeah, I don't care. It's what you did. You quit. People can get mad at me. People can say that, well, you're an old school. Good. I don't care if people transfer. Don't matter to me. Leave. Here's your hat. What's your hurry? Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Simple. I don't need some long-winded excuse from a quitter. I don't need some long-winded thing about telling me how great your teammates are and the fans are and, oh, by the way, I quit. No. Who the hell needs that? I've had enough. I just don't need it. I tell you what I do need. I used to come on Will Cain's show at ESPN and educate him. You know, when he was a sports talk show, and he had the best sports talk show at ESPN, I used to come on and he would throw these stupid things out and I'd have to educate him. Then he moved over to Fox and he's become a superstar. He's an absolute superstar. He's actually the voice, or one of the voices, of common sense. You see him, you know him, you love him. Will Cain was the first guy that I looked at and said, man, that'd be interesting to do. I mean, I get it. We're all supposed to go around calling basketball games and think it's the greatest thing ever. And it was. It was fun. Hell, I put kids through college calling basketball games. What do you want me to do? It was great. But at some point in your life, when you see the national discourse headed the way it is, you want to be involved in the conversation. Will got involved in the conversation, and Will got involved in the conversation at a very, very high level. And he's killing it. He's got his own background, and it's awesome. Are you kidding me? So I can't wait to talk to Will Cain about a number of things. His Cowboys, the fact that I was the greatest guest in the history of radio talk shows in Indianapolis, the fact that the Biden administration is so full of crap and so corrupt that they have everything on lockdown, from the FBI to the Department of Justice to Twitter, for crying out loud. I don't get it. Will gets it. We're going to talk to him. Is free speech still a thing? Why are people so afraid of free speech? What's going on? Is Odell Beckham going to the Cowboys? See, here's what I like. You can talk to a variety of things with Will Cain, and your toes are going to be tapping, and it's freaking awesome. So there we go. All right, when we come back, the legend, the great Will Cain. It's the reuniting of two of ESPN's all-time greats on Fox. Say it ain't so, baby. We'll be right back.
Coach Dan Mullingus joining us tonight, talking about the CFP rankings that are out, Championship Saturday that is coming up. Happy to have him join us on Outkick. Coach, let's get into it with the rankings that came out this past Tuesday. And we look at the top three. I think we can all agree on the top three. For USC, right, they slide right in after the win this past weekend. They're sitting in a prime spot going into the championship Saturday against Utah. Ohio State 5. So let's break down the first 5 to me. Do you think that they got it right numerically, just putting Georgia at 1, Michigan 2, or does it really matter right now?
Well, I think it gets tricky, and I think they've left themselves some opportunity. I think you could have easily gone Michigan at 1 just because of the quality of win. You know, I mean, if you look at the great win, right now, Georgia's great win over Tennessee. They were a great team. They won at home, won pretty convincingly, and that's their only top 10 win. Now, if you look at the big picture thing, I guess Michigan, you can throw out, they won at Ohio State against a great team, equal team, but they also won against Penn State, who the committee seems to value extremely high. So I think you could easily make the argument to have put Michigan at number 1. And I think they could still flip it after this weekend with 1 and 2. I think that's a pretty easy sell right there. TCU at 3, I think, is very easy. I think TCU's in no matter what. Even if they lose, I think they'll still make the playoff at this point. And that gets you then down to, 4 and 5, which, in thinking about it, in reality, you could have easily gone with Ohio State at 4, because you're giving them credit for the Penn State win, and you're giving them credit for if you're going to go that way, you put them in the categories. Okay, let's compare USC then Ohio State 4 and 5, the teams you're next to.
You brought this up on Fox and Friends Weekend this weekend, and it was so on point that's actually also one of my questions I want to ask Elon, which is this. You bought Twitter, but you're a billionaire and you know about tech. So if this took place at Twitter, is it your understanding or expectation that it also took place at YouTube, at Facebook, at Google? Do you think this type of government-induced censorship was prevalent everywhere? I think that we all believe that's the case, but I'd like to hear that from Elon Musk. And to your point, Clay, on does he need more media infrastructure? I think his answer to you, and I hope his answer is, no, I'm going to make Twitter everything. Yeah. Twitter's going to be a general content distribution mechanism with video, audio, and I think that's what was sort of represented in that Twitter space. I think it's the platform for something much more than what it is today.
I think that's a really interesting angle that I think he has to, in the back of his mind, be contemplating if he paid $44 billion for the company, because he's not he believes in capitalism, right? I mean, he's not trying to run Tesla to not make money. He's not trying to run SpaceX and these other things. He wants to send rockets to space, and he wants to, redefine the combustion engine. But the idea is not, this is a not-for-profit venture. It's to make money, because that's really how you scale. So thankfully, he's a big capitalist. And to your point, yeah, the question that I asked when we were on Fox and Friends yesterday morning was, I think what we're getting to see is a look behind the curtain. I think the fact that Elon Musk owns Twitter gives us very strong ideas as to what actually is occurring at Google and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all of these other companies. And I just come back, Will, the fact that they all banned, I mean, Pinterest banned Donald Trump. He couldn't decide that he wanted to get into knitting, right? And hey, like what did George W. Bush do down in Texas when he got done? He's like, hey, I'm going to paint. I didn't see that coming, right? And he's evidently not that bad of a painter. But if Trump had just been like, hey, you know what gives me fulfillment? I'm not going to run for president anymore. I'm just going to knit. I'm going to make stockings. He couldn't have a Pinterest account and sell stockings, right? I mean, it's crazy.
There you go. Let's all sell stockings. A great Will Kane, nice enough to join. So let me ask you a couple things. I had an interesting conversation yesterday with Emma Jo Morris. She actually has Hunter Biden's hard drive in her apartment, the writer, the editor for Breitbart and the New York Post. What is going on here? Like, I assume all of these other social media sites are doing this, but the bigger question, why no reporting on any of this, Will?
We have a media that's no longer interested, if they ever were, and that's probably the interesting conversation, Dan. Was it ever truly interested in the truth? We only have a media that's interested in forwarding its agenda. I said this one time, Dan, did you ever see that quote? And I think it's H.L. Mencken, and it's sort of the guiding light for people who consider themselves journalists, that your job is to speak or afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. When journalism took that on as sort of their mantra, their guiding light, what they did is say, we are agenda-driven and we need to make the world a better place, as opposed to we are truth-driven. We're here to give you the truth, and you are now charged with the truth as your weapon with making the world a better place. And so you have all of these journalists who don't believe free speech makes the world a better place. And by extension, Elon Musk doesn't make the world a better place. So they ignore it. They ignore the story. They ignore Hunter Biden. They spin it. It's gone from hacked material to Russian disinformation. And Dan, I know you've probably seen this. The only way they've covered this, at least on social media, is to now say that conservatives, Republicans, and free speech advocates simply want to share, junk pics of Hunter Biden, as though it was about crack and hookers. It was never about crack and hookers. It was always about potential corruption of the government at the highest levels. And that's not important to them. It doesn't help their agenda of what they envision to be the world as a better place. So this time you can't spin it. This time you can't censor it. So simply ignore it and pretend it's a nothing burger and doesn't exist.
Yeah, I asked Emma Jo yesterday, what's on the hard drive? She said a lot of corruption, a lot of porn, and that's all I've seen. Hey, you guys want to see Hunter Biden's junk? I really don't. And you're an idiot if you
cares
download
about that
porn
part
now, because hell, right. Hey, let me go this route with you, because the narrative is also, look, there is more hate speech on Twitter since Elon Musk took it over. That's the new narrative here. There's hate speech, not free speech. What's your thoughts on that?
What is hate speech? That's the only logical response to that. What is hate speech? Anyone who wants to have that conversation, their floor is theirs, and the burden of proof is on them to begin, Dan. Define hate speech. And that's not to say I'm sitting here today and saying there's no such thing as hate speech, but it is a subjective concept that empowers the person who defines. Merriam-Webster, the United States Federal Code, the Canadian government, the UK government. Whoever is empowered defines hate speech, and therefore they have all of the power. That's why we don't have that in the United States of America. It's not a concept. We don't have any laws against hate speech. And I even think that's for Elon, by the way. Dan, you know, what Clay and I were talking about was on Saturday night, Elon had that Twitter space where 100,000 people were in there. And Clay and I were both fortunate enough at separate times to ask Elon a question. I would also have several follow-up questions. And one was, he said a week or two ago, Dan, that he was going to, what'd he say, turn down hate speech and turn up virtuous speech or something like that. And the logical response is, what is virtuous speech and what is hate speech? Please, Elon, you now have the power. So tell us who gets turned down and who gets turned up via your definitions of hate speech.
When you look at Elon Musk and what he's done with Twitter so far, if you just pay attention and you Google Musk, like I did this yesterday specifically to Google, everything is negative. He's killing Twitter. Yeah. I actually read an article. He's in over his head with Twitter. What are your thoughts on Musk so far and Twitter, buying Twitter?
Cautiously optimistic, but overwhelmingly optimistic. I don't know how many billionaires that you and I could sit here and pick if we were given a basket full of billionaires and we reached our hand into the basket and picked one out that would seem to be as dedicated to the principle of free speech as Elon Musk. Now, here's the cautious part, partially what I just described to you. You know, in that call, Elon said that he was going to censor to the extent of the law. Well, the law in the United States of America is incitement to violence. You can say anything, right? There is no such thing as hate speech. You can say anything up to a direct incitement to violence. But we know that that's really not what Elon's doing because he kicked Kanye off. And I'm not saying whether or not he should or shouldn't have. All I know is when you kick Kanye off, you are now censoring beyond the extent of the law because Kanye didn't do anything illegal. Maybe offensive, maybe something to be condemned, but not illegal. And so what I mean by that is now Elon has exceeded his own defined personal standard. So this is where I'm cautious. Again, not saying you shouldn't censor Kanye, but I need you to now, as one of the biggest, most powerful billionaires in the world, to tell me what is your standard. And Dan, I'm when I say cautiously optimistic, I don't put blind faith really in anyone, and much less a billionaire. I'm just not going to do that. But again, if I reached my hand into the basket and picked billionaires, he would be my hope at the ping pong ball I pulled out of the basket.
The beautiful thing about you, Will, is you can talk about anything. I'm going to get into sports in a little bit, but I want to get into something I talk about all the time on this show. I don't get it. I don't get the attack, and I call it an attack on our children in this country and on women in this country. I have a very strong wife, Hall of Fame softball player, as a player, a coach, big advocate for women's sports going way back. And she and other women are disgusted by it. Why do we feel in America all of a sudden we got to have drag shows? We got to influence kids. I read something, some idiot was talking about her kid is all upset about climate change. Why does a kid even know about climate change? Why are we attacking women and children in this country?
Okay, I'm thinking about this in real time, and I'm going to tell you two potential answers for this. One, and I would love to see a poll on this, Dan, the gender divide between the embrace of the transgender ideology. Like what percentage of men versus what percentage of women have embraced this movement towards acceptance of proselytizing transgender ideology to children? Because that's what we're focused on here, right? Children. The drag queen shows open to all ages, the hormones and surgical treatments of children. And I would like to know, because if women want to defend the concept of feminism, then women need to take control of the steering wheel. If they want to defend women's sports, they need to take control of the steering wheel. I think for many people, this whole idea has been driven, this is so number one, has been driven through the prism of empathy. Whatever it is, at all times, I need to be empathetic to the person that is considered a marginalized community. And so if you characterize this as, well, the victim here is the trans person who's marginalized, then all your empathy is poured to that person, right, Dan? And your empathy hose doesn't get to see two different outlets, and you don't see the children that are being sacrificed, and you're extending zero empathy to children, okay? So whoever it is that is seeing the world through empathy, Dan, women, men, whatever, maybe you need to think about who you're not giving empathy. Second, this is less charitable. There's a group of people in this world that continue to seek out the more provocative and quite honestly, the more evil. And this is to me embodied by the Balenciaga ad campaign. And let's not mince words about this. That's not empathy. That's evil. Okay, that whether or not it's the art director or the company or the whoever, right? Whoever drove this thing, if you want to put little kids into bondage gear and lay out kid porn Supreme Court decisions on the desk, you're toying. You're not toying. You have crossed into the line of embracing the concept of perversion and evil. And there, at a minimum, Dan, what you and I are doing right here needs to be what is done. Speak plainly and loudly about this, and that's at a minimum. Because then we need to allow consumers to make choices. You need to not be doing business with anybody that's willing to cross the line into evil. And then we can talk about what other remedies there might be as well.
You know, one of the things, and this is amazing to me, even in jail, even in prison, there are standards. And the standard of you gonna get your beat if you are a child molester, if you are involved in hurt. Even in prison, we have this standard, but not in advertising, not in our schools. It drives me crazy, Will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we don't live up to the moral code of prisons.
Think about that. Think about that. Yeah. We don't live up to the moral code of prison. It's absolutely astounding. All right, last thing, and before I want to get to some sports with you, when you look at Musk and he is talking with the Department of Justice, the crime family that's in the White House right now, all this kind of stuff, and people are saying, wait a second, what about an election in Brazil? What about an election overseas? In your mind, you talked about the other social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, and all. How do you see this going? Do you think there's going to be a files on an election in Brazil, a file on something going on in the Middle East? How do you see this?
Well, I want to answer your question directly because you asked me, do I think there will be a file? So, I mean, there's a part of me, Dan, that instinctually says yes. I do think Twitter, and for that matter, Facebook, Google via YouTube, and also search results, meddles in everything, absolutely everything. And that I really hope in Twitter Files 2 or 3 that Elon begins to reveal at least some of that, if not all. He talks about the power of sunlight. And my question to Elon on Saturday night was, what other subjects were whatever topics were most subjected to government-induced censorship. And he did say January 6th and COVID, there are a lot of questions around. So I hope that we see some of the information about that. But I wouldn't suspect those are the only topics. As you mentioned, there's elections all around the world. And so, but right now, we do need to acknowledge as well. So take the Hunter Biden story. And I've said this, and the left is somehow like carving out one sentence in what I have to say about this, to say that even Will Cain acknowledges that there was no smoking gun in the Hunter Biden Twitter story. There's a dead body, and there's a perpetrator standing over the dead body. And that perpetrator has a motive and is holding in one hand a strategic plan to execute a murder. The fact that he's not holding a smoking gun doesn't mean I'm supposed to close my eyes and pretend like this didn't happen. The smoking gun would be an email, a phone call transcript where there's an FBI agent saying to Twitter, you need to take this down because it's Russian disinformation. We don't have that yet. But what we do have is weekly meetings with the FBI and Facebook, for one, because Mark Zuckerberg has told us, telling them, watch for this, watch for that, setting the stage. We also see that Twitter, through Twitter Files, was in constant communication with the DNC and law enforcement at the highest levels to to censor. So we I don't know that we just don't have the smoking gun on that one particular story, but we have, in law, there's circumstantial evidence. You can get a murder conviction on circumstantial evidence. You can get one without a body, much less a smoking gun. And we have a body here. We have an election that was altered. We have a story that was spiked. So all I'm telling you is, as we continue to look for other subjects, maybe Brazil, maybe COVID, maybe January 6th, whatever it may be, I do think that Twitter played a role. I do think the story will go there. I think all big tech did. And I hope that Elon shines sunlight on all of those stories. But I don't know that we'll ever have, on any particular story, a bright line smoking gun. We're going to have to see the circumstantial case, which I think, Dan, is incredibly strong.
You know, I've seen where some congressmen and women have said, look, once the Republicans take the House coming up here in January, there's going to be an investigation. You anticipate that happening? And do you anticipate, based on what you've seen, anybody doing any jail time?
I do think there'll be an investigation, and I don't think, just because I've been following politics for a long time, there'll ever be any sense of real accountability. We'll have hearings. We'll have, hopefully,
Isn't
some
that
truth.
Sad?
It is. But do you know, and I've had this said to me before, and this is going to take us full circle on this story. In a democracy, in a political environment, the ultimate accountability is an election. It should be. We are provided the information, and then we vote the bums out. So when we find out, we're supposed to be able to then execute our accountability at the ballot box. To take this story full circle, it's not very powerful if in the end you are manipulating elections.
Herschel Walker, in Georgia, what's going to happen there?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine, Dan. I'd rather tell you what's going to happen in the NFL season than try to predict the outcome of a political election. I mean, I'll be real. I thought Donald Trump was going to win in 2020. I thought there would be a red wave for the midterms in 2022. So, my job is to try to look through issues and find, the truth at the heart of the issue. I'm no election prognosticator.
I'll tell you one thing we're going to have, and I will bet anything. Americans getting a little bit tired of election fraud. You can mess with a lot of stuff, but not election. I think that's going to be a big problem in this country coming up. Let me ask you, your Cowboys went on not a 10-0, 20-0, or 30-0 run. They went on a 33-0 run against my Colts. I do believe the Cowboys are a Super Bowl contender. I also believe the Colts are the biggest mess in the NFL. And Jeff Saturday, I got two words for him: my backside. Your Cowboys look good, my friend.
I know. So this is the Will Cain, Dan Dakich relationship that extends for several years onto multiple sports media platforms, where we both appreciate the give and take. Unfortunately, we're on the same side of the issue when it comes to Cowboys. A couple weeks ago, I said on the Will Cain podcast, I think the Cowboys might be Super Bowl contenders. Of course, laughed at. I'm here to tell you today, I think everyone can see it. I think the Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders. Defense, rush the passer, running game. I still believe that Dak Prescott is a Super Bowl level quarterback. Cowboys have it all. And your Colts are an absolute mess. You're absolutely correct. But here's where the give and take now begins, is I don't lay it all. I don't even know how much I lay at the feet of a coach that just got there. And I'll own my own bias, a guy that I like in Jeff Saturday.
I like Jeff Saturday. I liked him until I started listening to his quotes of I, me, I, distancing himself. It's not at the feet. See, here's my deal, Will, and this goes back to our conversation early about the media. I've said for years, this is a house made of sand, the Colts, and the general manager, who has been voted the number one general manager in the NFL by NFL Network, by agents, and by the media, is the most overrated guy ever. And it's built on so that's everybody's culpable when you become just a blank show, including the owner, Jimmy Irsay, everybody.
And so we'll broaden it out a little bit. I think this, you'd say the same thing, Dan. And I have a question for you today about sports as well. But let's broaden it out. I'm a big culture guy. Okay, big in the belief that you have to establish a culture of accountability and winning. And I think that's the story of the Cowboys for much the last 25 years on why they have underachieved. And it really, if you want to make a good argument, it's the Cowboys this year, is that there's something wrong in the culture of the Cowboys, and it goes to the top. But I think that my Texas Longhorns have suffered for a long time, Dan, something in the water, which is the culture in that program, football program, for a long time. I love what Dan Campbell's done with the Detroit Lions. I think he's establishing a culture. And I believe if you give Jeff Saturday, I do know Jeff personally. I do think he's a guy that can establish a culture where I think Bill Belichick set up what he importantly set up in New England is a culture. What Nick Saban set up at Alabama, as you change offensive coordinator, players, defensive coordinator, every 3 to 4 years, the consistency is the culture. I do believe that a guy like Jeff Saturday, given time, can establish, like I believe Dan Campbell has begun to, a culture in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday, in my opinion, is too much of an I guy. Dan Campbell, I was with at Colts camp when the Detroit Lions came in and scrimmaged for 2 days, and I said I don't know. I was shocked that, number one, Dan Campbell wasn't the meathead that I thought he was, where everybody was going to fight every minute, where that was going to be the big thing. And I did say, look, Detroit, if DeAndre Swift stays healthy, Detroit's every bit as good as, as the Colts, and the Colts were supposed to be good. But I got to go to this. Somebody asked me this. I did a Dallas radio show on the flagship station of the Cowboys the other day, and they asked me, who would you rather have as an owner, Jerry Jones or Jim Irsay?
And what'd you say?
I'm not sure. I like them both because in my job, they create interest. You know what I mean? Who would you say?
I have to say, I would say Jerry Jones. The thing I know for a fact, and you can speak to Jim Irsay, the thing I know for a fact with Jerry is I do believe he wants to win. And that's it's a minimum bar, Dan, but I don't know how many of the owners actually, clear the bar. How many owners, when I say want to win, I don't just mean abstractly. I talk to my sons about this. Okay, you want to win. Everybody wants to win in their bedroom. Like the night when they're laying their head down on their pillow and they're thinking about tomorrow. Everybody wants to win, but then you wake up the next morning and you start making choices. And those choices that you make, you have to ask yourself, how many of those choices that you make have you placed higher on the priority list than winning? Now, I'm not telling you that Jerry at all times has winning at the top. I think there's marketing and money and definitely ego that compete with winning. But I do believe that Jerry has, throughout his day, winning near the top of his priority list. And I don't think many owners actually do.
I'll give Irsay that. Irsay always had it. He slipped a little bit. According to people in the organization, he used to have, and Bill Polian had this sign, Ryan Grigson had this sign, and this guy doesn't have this sign, but it's a Jim Irsay quote that nothing interferes with winning. And Irsay's gotten a little sideways with that. The Colts went with a bigger PR firm. They felt like the previous regime was not compatible with the media, so they went relationships. So I'll give Irsay that. The one thing I've always thought about Jerry Jones, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's really hard to own the team and make the decisions on the personnel. I don't know why I feel that, but I feel like you've got to have somebody that can make personnel decisions that is free and clear of anything other than making personnel decisions.
Okay, your premise I agree with. So I think, back to the concept of the problem in a culture, I think it's very similar to two of my favorite teams, the Cowboys and the Longhorns. And that is, I believe that football in particular, Dan, is the most similar to the military of all of our sports. And you have to have a hierarchy that is a chain of command that boils down to every single individual player, because there's so many men involved in football doing their job. Not freelancing. In basketball, your sport, you're rewarded a bit more for the freelance. In soccer, you're rewarded for creativity. In football, Bill Belichick made a point of it. Do your job. And if you undercut people's jobs, then you have a problem. So if a player thinks he can go straight to the owner and bypass the coach, now you don't have a culture of accountability. So I agree with your premise, but I disagree with you on Jerry as owner and GM in that specific thing you just described, because the Cowboys have had a good roster for 25 years. They just bottom line. They draft well. They haven't been crazy free agent spenders. They have done a really good job. The problem with the Cowboys is they have underachieved with that talent. And I think it has been in part because they haven't empowered culturally the coach to be the final say on accountability. And I'll say the same thing with the Longhorns. You know, you got billionaires in the program who constantly are capable of making decisions instead of the people you hire to make those decisions.
See, I have a fundamental disagreement with great rosters that underachieve. My thing is, well, that it's not a great roster. Like, I just have because I do believe this. I think that the media.
What about when players go somewhere else and achieve?
Yeah, I mean, then maybe the system, maybe you made a bad draft choice based on your system, and which makes it a bad draft choice. You see what I'm saying? I look at the NFL. I look at the NFL totally different than I look at the NBA, college basketball. I look at the NFL and your Longhorns or my sorry ass Hoosiers or whatever, college football and the NFL. There's only 17 of these games. I don't care if you have cap space. I don't care if you get graded number 1 in the draft. Last year, the Colts had 7, quote, all pros. 7 guys went to the Pro Bowl, didn't make the playoffs. The literal only thing that I care about in the NFL and college football is did you win or did you lose? And I'm probably wrong because every media guy in Indy tells me, well, we've had great drafts. Quentin Nelson's great. No, he's not. They don't win. That's how I look at it.
Come on, he's an offensive guard. He doesn't get to dictate the fact that Matt Ryan is totally done. What?
Why draft him 6th? Why draft him 6th and pay him $20 million? That's a bad draft choice. You know, I mean, and he was bad last year, and he's been bad, but the media will tell you this offensive line is really good. That's my point. I know, and you know, particularly with the Cowboys, that the NFL is the biggest thing going. The biggest thing. So anybody that's any good, and all these media guys are so in pocket. So any guy that well, Quentin Nelson's the greatest guard ever. No, he's not. If you watch a tape every day, he gets crushed. Drives me nuts. You win, you lose in the NFL. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to you with 2 things. One of them's gonna be a question. You know, you and I have always had these conversations. First of all, anybody that's listening is not. My favorite thing on the old Will Kane show on ESPN Radio was Dan Dakich telling me that Kristaps Porzingis has bad eyes. Bad eyes. You know, and he said from that point forward, he'll never make it. And by the way, I think you have largely been a winner on that. And I'm giving you credit. Don't tell me to hold on. I'm giving you credit.
I know. But what I said was he has bad eyes, and whoever drafts him with the number 2 pick, which sometimes the number 2 pick propels you to the NBA Finals, will never get out of the lottery with him.
Who did you also say had bad eyes? You had another famous thing. Did you say Josh Allen has bad eyes? What was your other? You had another wonderful condemnation of somebody that wasn't as successful as your Porzingis prediction.
No, my Josh Allen is to be determined. It's to be determined.
Okay.
I said when I watched Aaron Rodgers this summer, I watched Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen playing a golf thing. And I came out and I said, yeah, I know he won last year, but Josh Allen ain't the guy to win you multiple Super Bowls.
From
he got
golf,
bad eyes.
from a charity golf tournament. You got that from a charity golf tournament.
Yep. 100%. You watch when he throws 3 interceptions this year.
Okay.
So what's your
now
what
the part the part where I'm more deferential to you. Look, you coached, and back to the point of like, did you win or lose? And that's an indictment on every single individual player. Everything I've ever been in, Dan, including television, by the way, the sum can be better than the total of the parts. So you can take in sports. 2 and 2 can actually be 5. If you get the right 2 combined with another right 2, there's a chemistry. There's things that come together in the locker room. And coaching is a big part of this, where you can have a collection of players that perform one way in one situation and not in another. And it, does it mean that individual player, he's great or he sucks because of the win-loss outcome when it doesn't add up? I just think that in sports, that's the whole point, is to gather a collection of individuals who can work together as a team. And it's not always the 5 or the 11 most talented dudes. You don't get just the 11 best athletes and think that adds up. sometimes there are combinations where the sum is greater than the total of the parts. So that's why I reject your Quentin Nelson, he stinks because the Colts don't win thing. Second, I'm going to put a question to you, and I know you're going to want to respond to that. Hey, how good are my Texas Longhorns in basketball, Dan? I mean, you're a college basketball guy. They're really good, right? Like I have NCAA championship tournament hopes with this Horns basketball team. Do I not?
100% yes. One of the broadcasters for the Texas Longhorns is a guy named Roger Wallace. And Roger and I were college roommates together. I think he's an analyst for the football team on the radio. And Roger knows hoops and loves this team. I haven't seen them enough, but I did see him beat the living you-know-what out of Gonzaga. And I do love Chris Beard. I think Chris Beard teaches toughness and understands, back to your initial point. When you are a junior college coach, your initial point about fit and all that is so accurate. There is just chemistry. You got to understand how to put this guy, well, he doesn't really fit with this guy. And when you are an NBA coach like Eric Musselman, a CBA coach like Eric Musselman, and a junior college coach like Chris Beard, that dude totally understands it, Will. I agree with your initial point. My thing is with the NFL is, hey, look, you either win or lose, and I understand the factors that go in to win or losing. So I'm agreeing with you, but I also think that guys in the NFL get overblown based on a number of factors. But to your Texas Longhorns, Houston with cheating Calvin Sampson, Texas with Chris Beard, Purdue with the best team, at least the best resume in the country, and Indiana, who got their brains beat out and needed to get their brains beat out. Those four teams are as good as any four that I've seen. And truthfully, Texas is probably just a little bit better than all of them. Hey, they got somebody big tonight, don't they?
Who do they have tonight? They beat Creighton as well as Gonzaga. So they've got two big wins on their resume. Who is it tonight? Look that up while I'm telling you this. How about this combination?
I am.
Chris Beard, who I agree with you, who coaches defense, first of all. Thank you. How about a little defense in college basketball? Second, the combination, big-time freshman 5-stars with fifth-year seniors, right? Several of like Timmy Allen transferred from Utah. Several of that combination of big-time recruits with guys that have been around the program, plus deep guard play, man. I mean, Texas goes 3 to 4 deep at guard play, and they are playing together. They like Marcus Carr had to give up the ball, and he's happy to, like to Tyrese Hunter. And this, I'm telling you, there's something in the chemistry, the coaching. I think I'm going to let my expectations run out of control, Dan. I'm going to let them go all the way. Fifth gear. Take off the safety barriers of my emotions.
Here's why when I was at ESPN, fan bases and parents didn't like me, all right? Marcus Carr was at Minnesota, and I said on the air about Marcus Carr, that dude is good enough to get you fired, which means he goes and gets 25, right? Taking bad shots. You get beat, and the AD and the boosters are like, man, we got this guy Marcus Carr. So the minute I said that, Rick Pitino, Richard's dad, sent me a text saying, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard. So now Marcus Carr goes to your boy Chris Beard, and he's a team player. He's also 35 years old. Will?
Yes. And so, okay, let's go back to you. This is back to your Quentin Nelson losing program situation. Was Marcus Carr putting up 25 because that's what he had to do that in that environment? Maybe he was adapting to, there's nobody else here. This is just me.
No.
He gave up the ball to Hunter, right? At Texas, it's what he's done. He's going to play off ball. He's going to take the shots when they're open, take over when he needs to, and be somewhat deferential to Hunter because now he has a guy, he has a team where that's what works.
Yeah, no question. And he's grown up. No, he was a pig.
Okay, and
he was an absolute pig at Minnesota. He was a pig. He shot it all the time.
You're laughing because you know when you're doing it. That's what I like about you. Like Bill O'Reilly's twinkle in his eyes. The Dan Dakich twinkle is in the back of his voice. Like, you know, I don't think it's you don't mean it. You do mean it, but you know what you're doing as you're doing it.
Hey, they have Illinois tonight, and here in the world of the Big Ten, like Hey, Will, I had a cousin named Roy, all right? My cousin Roy was a big old guy, and he's a cop now or whatever. He used to get in fight. He was 2 years younger than me. He used to get fights at these different festivals and get his ass beat, all right? And I'd say, Roy, you're killing the family name. We need a win. The Dakich, we need a win in these street fights you're getting into. Illinois tonight needs a win. Illinois is supposed to be good. They got Texas. They need a win.
Did you ever help Roy out? I mean, to defend the family name and correct the record? Did you ever get any W's for the Dakiches?
2 in college. I beat up a football player because he had it coming, and I was wearing a fedora, and a guy flipped it off my head, so I drilled him, ran into the car, and hid in the back seat so I wouldn't get arrested.
You deserve that for wearing a fedora, first of all. Second, what's your one-loss record in fights?
College 2-0. In 8th grade, I got punched by Daryl Collins, and the bell rang, and I didn't get to punch him back. I take that as a loss. Probably tied. You know what I mean? What about you?
I've got a similar 8th grade story. It's one of those 8th grade situations where I don't even know how the fight started. But next thing you know, we're going. And, because I'm a good boy, the first thing I think is we got out of here without getting in trouble. So then I quit. It was kind of over. It was broken up. So I went and hung out against a wall, stand there. And he comes and gets in my face. In the meantime, he disappeared. He'd gone to his locker, Dan, and got in a fighting ring. He's a skateboarder. He was a skateboarder guy. And the ring had a gargoyle on it, with like teeth going out like that. And so I didn't know. And there's a crowd. It's 8th grade. There's a crowd around, going fight. And I'm like, no, because my major thing is I didn't get after school detention or suspended. So I'm not going again. And I turned to look this way, and he just right in the eye with that ring. My head hit the wall. I came off and kind of went after him, but then the worst part happens. The principal comes in and double headlocks us both like this. Had us in a headlock and marched us away. I had the biggest black eye for I don't know how long. So that's a loss like yours. And then I would say once I got to my 20s, I got a bunch of I don't know. They're not losses. I don't think it's fair for me to call them wins. They're melees, They're not one-on-one, everybody clear out. And so I'll call those ties. So 0, 1, and 5.
I forgot. I knocked a big fat lineman out in health class when I was a senior in high school. He called me a female cat. When he walked by and girls heard it. Yeah. So I got up. I said, Bill, what are you talking about? He came at me. Bam! I literally, Will, this is a true story. I had to do. I was going to Indiana on a full basketball scholarship, right? They didn't kick me out of school. Whatever. He got a black eye. He's a mess. I go to get my diploma. You ever see the movie Breakfast Club?
Yeah.
So you had Saturdays 8 to 5. I had to do 3 of them. I did 1. I go to get my diploma. I open up my diploma, and there's a note from the dean of students. Mr. Dakich, you have not graduated. Come see me. I'm like, So I had to do 2 detentions for hitting Big Fat Bill because he just.
This is high school or this is college?
No, it was high school, my senior year, right before the state tournament.
Yeah, but you were already signed up with Bobby Knight, right? Was he there? Was that Bobby Knight? Who was that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How did that go over?
Up, but he never knew. We didn't have social media, he didn't know. But Big Bill wanted a piece of me, and he never got it. So look at us, 2 old tough guys. Just scrapping.
Hey, Dan, I don't know how long we're going here. Let me move on before you try to move this back to substance. We have both been controversial sports media figures, but for probably somewhat, at least tonally, different reasons. And you, I'm curious in your media career, then who has wanted to fight you the most as a professional sports? Somebody, some kid's parents, some kid, some pro, somebody has wanted to take a shot at Dan Dakich for something you've said. Who?
I got writers here in Indianapolis. They get mad at me. One of them's a boxer. He always threatens me. And then the other yelled at me. I was doing a live remote, and this guy, Stephen Holder, yelled at me, "Who are you? Who are you?" He's a writer for ESPN. I said, "I'm your daddy." And then he dropped that F-bomb, blank you. And, writers here, I've had parents. I had the entire gym at Breslin Center chanting, "We hate Dakich. We hate Dakich." My buddy has it as his ringtone. Will, every time I call my friend Bart Fox, one of my producers, it's his ringtone. When I call, that's the ringtone. How about you? How about you? Have you had any of these politicians? Have you had any of these, people come at you? Any threats?
I'm trying to decide if I think I've said this before. Without going into the details, the only one, the main name I'd say would be Don Lemon.
What's his problem?
I don't know. Didn't like me at CNN when I was a contributor at CNN. Didn't like me. Without going into the details, Don Lemon.
That's a badge of honor.
I think you're right.
I kept you way too long. I got my producers going, damn. I go, hey, I'm having fun with Will. What the heck, man? Mavericks any good?
Not really. We've got the best player, one of the best players in the NBA. I absolutely love him. I love the way he plays basketball. I love everything about him and Luka Doncic, but I don't know. Maybe the Dan Dakich standard holds. Right now, they're, hovering around right above or below a 500 team. And he creates open threes for everybody, but they don't knock him down. So is that an indictment of him, Dan? Is he not good because they're not Western Conference Finals last year, so he's got to be pretty good. But something's not right this year.
No, I don't include basketball in this. Football, 82 games. Baseball, 162 games. It's a growing process in those sports. In football and in college football, just win. See what I'm saying? You just win.
Do you like Luka, or does he have bad eyes?
Love him. No.
Okay.
No. He's one of my Serbian
He hadn't been in any golf tournaments, and you saw him slice one, and you decided he's a scrub?
When Josh Allen throws 2 picks in the fourth quarter against Kansas City, think of me.
I'll think of you. I agree, by the way. Some of the best eyes in sports, Luka Doncic. Some of the best eyes. Vision, Luka Doncic.
Oh. And I'm so happy for your success, man. Congratulations. Always fun talking to you, my friend. Thanks for way too much time today.
I've loved it. It was a lot of fun. Thanks, Dan.
Don't you have something to do? Don't you have somewhere
I got to go do my own Will Kane podcast, which everybody that loves the Dan Dakich show should check out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I got to go do the Will Kane podcast now today.
See you, brother. Thank you.
See you. Thanks.
How great is he, man? Always great. Loved going on his show. He had a producer that would give me crap all the time. I loved every minute of it. Will is fantastic. All right, I got my top 5 analysts in sports coming up. I'm going to tell you who I like listening to. Usually the sound is down when I'm watching a game. It's what I learned from sitting in a film room with Bobby Knight for 12 years. And by the way, when Josh Allen throws 3 picks, you all can kiss. Well, never mind. We'll be right back.
College football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking that we're going to be practicing the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point. It felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
Oh, man, was that fun. I love when a show goes off the rails. I've made my entire media career, if you want to call it that, by going off the rails. All right, you know what? It is the time of year when we've got college basketball, college football, we've got NBA, we've got all kind of stuff. I'm going to give you my top 5 analysts / broadcasters. Now, you got to understand something. For 12 years, this is true. Once I became a full-time assistant for Bob Knight, we used to watch games on mute. I am totally used to watching games on mute. When I coached for 10 years as a head coach, I would watch games on mute. I'd never listened to broadcasts. Then when I started being a broadcaster, I would listen to games 3 ways. I would listen to them first on mute so that I could get my own thoughts, not an announcer's thought. Then I would listen to the game with the sound up so that I could maybe pick up something from an announcer. And then I would watch them offense first, every offensive possession, then every defensive possession in a row so that I could get trends, okay? Well, now that I'm out, and since I was in broadcasting, there's only certain guys that I like listening to. I'm going to give you my 5 best announcers. Number 5, Fran Fraschilla. Fran Fraschilla knows hoops. Fran Fraschilla is the kind of guy that when he talks, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something maybe in the background of a team, but mostly you're going to learn something from what is happening on the court. There are 3 things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tell the listener what is happening, obviously, educate the listener, and forecast. Those 3 things. Forecasting means what you're going to do is you're going to say this should or is going to happen. Romo used to be good at it, but he's crap right now. Total crap. Romo has gone from being the best to a guy that bought his own stuff, and you know what? Isn't nearly as good. Fran Fraschilla educates you, he teaches you, he tells you, and he forecasts. I tell you what, when you're in studio and you're at ESPN, there's only one guy, actually 2. Fonz is pretty good, but he uses too many numbers. There's only one guy to listen to at halftime in college basketball, and that's Seth Greenberg. Seth Greenberg is number 4. Seth Greenberg, to me, is entertaining, he's fun, and he's uber informed. Jay Billis acts like he doesn't want to be there. The idiots that are on the NCAA tournament, like what was that one legendary awful group? Rex Chapman, Seth Davis, and Candace Parker. Those three clowns did not know anything about what they were talking about. They didn't even know names, and I swear to God, a couple of them looked like they were high. It was unbelievable. But Greenberg, nobody, and I mean nobody, prepares like Seth Greenberg. He's been a coach, so he's going to, at halftime, tell you what's going to happen. He's been a coach, so at halftime, he will tell you what did happen and why. Seth is the most entertaining guy at halftime in college basketball. Now, I got to tell you, the list isn't very high. What are you going to do, listen to Seth Davis? Never coached, never played. He's a political wonk with a rich daddy. Clark Kellogg, he doesn't tell you anything, never has. Best thing Clark Kellogg ever used to say was, well, that's right, Steve, when he was paired with Steve Kerr. Greenberg will tell you, he'll play it straight, and he's fun. He'll make fun of the guys doing the game. He'll tease you. Don't at me about it. Terrific. Number 3, Troy freaking Aikman. Gotta tell you, didn't know Troy Aikman was this good. Learned about Troy Aikman the other night doing the Colts game on Monday Night Football a week ago. Troy Aikman did not get on there and do what these guys were doing. He did not get on there and go, hey, guess what? The Colts are in a bad spot. The Colts lost luck. The Colts, Bob, he didn't make excuses. He made fun of the Colts. Yes, he did. He took the Colts and said, wait a second. You guys stink. You're horrible. You stink. Awful. No good. Got just to the point of making fun of him. I would put Chris Collinsworth in there too, but I think Aikman has moved past, at least in my world. When you watch NFL on NBC the other night, I got to tell you, too many excuses about the Colts. Screw that. Colts stink. They're embarrassing. Aikman called it out. Number 2 is actually a tie. And Dylan, I forgot to put this in there, and maybe you guys can. It's Jason Benetti and Mike Tirico. Jason Benetti and Mike Tirico are by far the 2 best play-by-play guys in the business. Mike Tirico, both of whom I've worked with, both of whom do something that is incredibly important in broadcasting, and that is they're not auditioning. They're not trying to show the world that they're the world's greatest broadcaster. I've worked with those guys that are auditioning. It's horrible. You're like, are we calling the game or what are we doing? When you listen to Benetti do college football, it's electric. When you listen to Mike Tirico do NFL football or the World Cup or whatever, we used to make fun of Mike. We'd say, what, are you going to Stade tomorrow to do the world's strongest man contest? These 2 guys can do any sport, anytime, and make it unbelievably interesting. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's tiddlywinks. In fact, there was a show, and you can see it. My man, great picture, by the way, my man Benetti, actually, when ESPN does that Ocho Day where they have all these weird things, he did an electric show, meaning an electrical show, meaning he had to describe with some guy that was an electrician what was going on. It was, I don't know, crazy. And Tirico is just simply the best. I mean, the best guys, the best people, the best broadcasters. If they're doing it, it's big. I'm watching. I don't care. They are, and they're more fun the night before. Way more fun the night before to hang out with than anybody you'll ever be around. But the coup de grace, the number 1, the guy that makes me go, all right, what's he saying, is Sir Charles. Sir Charles would have me at hello. Sir Charles has been on this show. Sir Charles has been on every show. Sir Charles speaks, I listen. Stephen A. speaks, I turn the channel. This guy here, whatever his name is, I turn the channel. Hollinsworth, whatever this guy is that's on with Greenberg, I turn the channel. Greenberg speaks, I turn the channel. Barkley speaks, I watch. Shaq speaks, I go, what? What's he saying? Kenny Smith speaks, I go, yeah, I think he wants to be a coach. He's pretty good. But this guy here, Barkley, automatic. I'm curious what Tom Brady's going to be, because Tom Brady says that he's going to be critical. Look, nobody's critical. ever since I left ESPN, you can't find anybody that's critical. You can't find anybody that tells you the truth other than Barkley, other than Aikman, other than Greenberg, or other than Fraschilla. And you know what else? All 6 of these guys do every game with enthusiasm. Every game. It's not a burden to be there. They're not bigger than the game. Every game they do is done with an immense enthusiasm. Those are my 6. Anyway, thank you for putting Mike in there. I had the 2 of them and I must have got tired. You know when you get old and you write out someone's name, you get a little tired. All right, who's the woke-a-dope? Wait. Oh, this person. Really? Why are we normalizing transgenderism? Because you are? 0.001% of the people. So we're supposed to normalize this? I don't think so. And I don't give a damn. Look, don't be mean to anybody, but don't tell me this is normal. Don't even act like it. I'm sorry. That gives me a headache. It will always give me a headache, and it won't stop giving me a headache. Hey, I got to thank everybody for being on the YouTube chat. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a bunch of questions from the YouTube chat. Dylan, it's great to have you back. Ryan and Davey and Aaron and our whole team, Kahali, awesome job today. Look, you want a good basketball game tonight? This is true. Texas and Illinois. Illinois needs a win. Son of a biscuit maker. If you're going to be considered a really good team, there's one way to do that. Beat really good teams. What? Everybody's telling me in this world of college basketball that Illinois is really good. Are they? Everybody's telling me in this world of college basketball that I'm crazy. Indiana stinks. They did. Everybody's telling me Illinois is a team to beat in the Big Ten. Lost to Virginia? You got to beat Virginia. You got to beat some teams. You got to beat good teams. I don't want to hear about it. Until you beat good teams, Illinois, I ain't all about you. But I love you because I love Brad Underwood. Going to be a heck of a game tonight. Last thing. Don't argue with me. Tom Brady can still throw the football. His team isn't very good, but when I watched Tom Brady last night, that dude could throw the pelota. He could fire that ball down the field. And I got to ask, why aren't we all on TB12? Why aren't we all juicing? Why aren't we all doing what he does? I look at myself in the mirror every day, all day. I'm right there in the camera. This is horrible. And it's getting worse. Man, TB12, I salute you. Clutch Gene, all about it. Big touchdown late. God bless you. Hey, everybody, have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. You can catch this act 12 to 3 at 1075thefan.com. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and a great rest of your morning.